Hey guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber, and today we are checking out another Majorkill video. These are always hilarious, and this is every single type of power armor explained. Before we get started though, hey, be sure check out the merch store, right? You can see I've got a bunch of fun parody shirts, got some hanging up back there. Also have mugs, stickers, all sorts of stuff. So be sure to check it out. Link is down below. All right, let's get into it.
Gal, what is better than being clothed? Being armored. And what is better than being armored? That's right, being naked. But I guess power armor is pretty neat as well. Now, for you non-virgins out there that might be able to tell the difference between Primaris armor and Firstborn armor, but you know, that's about it.
Whew, I can't even do that, damn.
There are over a dozen different power armor types that the Space Marines use, and the majority of them are still in use in some capacity, either due to Space Marine chapters being poor as shit, rarely coming in contact with the Imperium, or just being so universally hated that the Mechanicus refuses to restock them.
That seems like a real thing that would happen, actually.
There are also some power armors that have become timeless and have been in use since before the Imperium even existed. And for the sake of gender balance, because as we know, Warhammer is a very gendered balanced hobby, we will also look at the power armor that the chicks wear. And no, I'm not talking about those weird mecha things they insist on using all the time. Before we get started, guys and gal, there is only 24 hours left to pick up your very own Majorkill 200k hoodies before they're gone forever. Remember how your grandparents would be like, take care of that because in 40 years it's going to be worth a lot of money. Well, I think that situation applies here.
Okay, I'm not gonna let Majorkill hype his merch. All right, respect to Majorkill for having great merch and for doing the 200k thing. I think it's cool. Maybe one day I will release some limited edition pre 50k thing, but you know, not now. And we're not gonna hype his stuff on my channel. But you should check out his channel, seriously. I really appreciate it. He does make good content, and if you want to support him, you totally should.
Designs and marks used by the Imperium. Although most of these are used by the Astartes, there are a few that are designed for non-spacey boy use. Let's get into it. Starting off, we have the Mark I Thunder Armor, because chronological order is a vibe. This was the first power armor that saw battle at the dawn of the Imperium, and it was quite primitive, you know, by sci-fi standards. The Emperor did not yet have Mars sucking his dick, so he more or less just salvaged power armor from techno-barbarians, then modified it to fit his Thunder Warriors, hence the name Thunder Armor.
Okay, so this is almost one slight step above just regular ass armor.
It was suitable for only terrestrial warfare, as it did not enclose the face, and only the top half of the body was powered, so you definitely couldn't run in it. However, when your enemy mostly consists of irradiated peasants, the Thunder Armor was more than enough to get the job done.
Wait, only the top half was powered? That's the least important half to power. You'd want the lower half to be powered, right? Because ultimately your legs got to carry all the weight, and it's a tremendous amount of effort to move quickly on the battlefield.
Generation Space Marines also used the Thunder Armor. Once Earth, or Terra as it's called, was conquered, the Big E knew he needed the technological might of Mars to allow his crusade to truly begin. To do this, he performed a magic trick and convinced the Martians that he was their messiah. I'm not even joking, that's exactly how it happened. With Mars's technological prowess, a new and way more advanced power armor was created. This was the Mark II Crusade power armor. This armor was designed—
Oh no, invention! Ah, the worst thing that could happen in 40k for some reason.
—with galactic warfare in mind. So not only did it protect the users from the vacuum of space, but it also had inbuilt life support systems, which allowed the Astartes within to fight on any planet. Oh yeah, and the legs were powered, which was nice. This power armor was also the first to use ceramite, which is a heat and shock resistant material, which is still jerked off to today.
Could you do that in power armor? Seems like you couldn't, right? It's kind of ding, 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 like, you know, enclosing.
As a final touch, the Crusade armor could be plugged into an Astartes neural network, giving them increased awareness and reaction time. Think of the Thunder armor like a Nokia brick, and the Crusade armor like the first iPhone. There was such a technological leap, and since then, each new iPhone has been more like a small upgrade / money grab rather than a big innovative leap forward. To show
That's a good analogy, actually.
my point, the Mark III power armor, called the Iron Armor, was basically just a tankier version of the Mark II armor and was never meant to replace it. This armor was best when cover was shit or you were fighting in close quarters. Beyond that, it looked and felt the same. The next noticeable leap forward was the Mark IV Maximus power armor. When the Primaris Marines first dropped, a lot of people were bitching about how the new helmet design looked too different and it looked less grimdark than the classic design. But bitch, that helmet design has been around for ages. The Mark IV armor used that design. The Maximus power armor was created by Mars when they discovered an STC which let them optimize and streamline power armor overall. They were able to make the armor lighter and more flexible whilst maintaining its durability.
I mean, here's what's interesting, right? When you have technologies, right? Again, in the modern world, not in the weird, grim, dark rules of 40K, is that they only mature, right? So it's a complete logical leap to be like, all right, you've developed this crude power armor, but it's shown you it's decisive on the battlefield. And that's like the Thunder armor. And then once you realize it has a military role, then you pour more time and resources into it, and you have more people operating it, and the more you operate it, the more you have a sense of ways it can be optimized. Think about aircraft, right? So early aircraft in the First World War were a really tremendous advantage in reconnaissance, but they weren't really scaled up, and they couldn't really do like aerial bombardment, but in terms of recon, they were second to none. Then, of course, you had crude fighter aircraft meant to stop reconnaissance aircraft from doing their job. And, what happened is you developed this core set of doctrines, set of procedures, and set of personnel who were expert in aircraft. And so you started to have more and more of those folks and commanders look at aircraft for their military potential. And so the technology quickly improved, right? They went from being biplanes that were so shakily constructed they only seemed to be able to carry one person and a gun or a camera aloft to passenger planes and rigid metal designs, right? The evolution, if you look from 1906 to just 15 years later, what the aircraft looked like in, say, 1920, you're looking at a pretty tremendous difference. And of course, as you learn more military functions, or you speculate and guess on more military functions, you develop more mature technologies. The big leap forward in the 30s being radio, right? So now you had this radio that you could put in, it was small enough to put into an aircraft, and you could even sometimes use it to help you find your location. And so then you had larger aircraft, they had greater range, better material science, right? So it's pretty incredible to see the way technologies can mature. Again, think by the first flight ever, 1906. Then think about 50 years later, 1956. You had I think you had supersonic fighter jets by that point. You definitely had jet fighters and long-range bombers capable of flying across continents. So to me, the idea that there's a millennium's worth of power armor that's just not optimized, it still seems silly, even given the extreme religiosity and extreme anti-technology views of the Imperium.
The Mark IV armor was also way cheaper and easier to create and repair. Some Space Marine legions even begun to modify their Maximus power armor to make them more stylish. Yeah, look, I don't see a practical need for the Thousand Sons to make their armor look like that, but it does look dope, so I'll allow it. Style over everything. The Mark IV power armor was made to be the creme de la creme of power armor, and many believe that there would be no armor beyond it. Well, many people also believe that sniffing glue is good for you, hence when Horus went full bold dickhead mode and declared jihad on the Emperor, a new mark of armor was made. The Mark V Heresy power armor. For the first time ever, power armor had regressed in quality. See, not every Marine had been equipped with the Mark IV armor when the Heresy broke out. As Horus was War Master and had some time to plan before announcing he was an evil son of a bitch, he quietly redirected Mark IV power armor shipments to the traitor legions rather than the loyalist ones. Hence, when shit went sideways, the traitors had all the new guns and armor, whilst the loyalists had mostly Mark II armor, which was super hard to repair and maintain. As such, the loyalists and some traitors invented the Mark V Heresy armor, which was
Wait, the loyalists and traitors together invented Mark V Heresy armor? That doesn't make any sense. Why would they invent it together?
cheap, makeshift, and easy to maintain. You could slap whatever shit you wanted onto it mid-battle. It was shit, but it got the job done. These designs are noted by being very studded, as those studs were basically used to keep the layers of armor bolted together. Unlike the Mark II and Mark IV power armor, which are considered highly valued antiques by modern-day Space Marines, the Mark V Heresy armor is considered trash, and a reminder of a darker time.
That's funny. It sort of is like how collectible cars, right? No, I mean literally like people who collect vintage cars. They love 60s and 70s Corvettes, all those vintage American sports cars. But their 90s permutations, right? 90s Corvettes are regarded as trash. You can't get rid of them. It's pretty funny just to see that, after the 70s or so, and maybe even into the 80s, definitely by the 90s, people just regarded the construction as being inferior in almost every level. And, I have a theory, I'm just going to put it out there, is that in the 60s and into the 70s, companies believed in manufacturing, like, you made the best quality product, and people purchased it, and the product was meant to last a long time, and that would inspire brand loyalty in other customers. But by the 70s, right, there was this realization that everyone already had a stand mixer. Everyone already had a reliable car. So you also began to see some outsourcing in the 70s, right? And you would see companies basically contract a lot of cheap crap that was never designed to last a long time. It was meant to be this year's product. It was meant to have an aesthetic. It was meant to have a modern look, but the performance was terrible. The plastics used were terrible. And you see it now, right? You know anybody that collects 50s and 60s vintage appliances? Hell yeah, that market is huge. Know anybody that collects 70s or 80s vintage appliances? Nope. Again, what happened is they outsourced manufacture away from the United States to other countries. They cut costs as much as humanly possible, right? They started with some planned obsolescence, right? Making sure that those machines break so that the people have to replace them. And there was just a general sense of high quality, long lasting items were not actually that profitable because the market had already been saturated. And that continues today. I mean, look at, Amazon, right? You go on Amazon and a lot of the products are by manufacturers you've never heard of, reviews that are fake because, I've seen it, right? I've ordered products and I'm like, there's no way this has 500 reviews when it's clearly too big, too small, too cheap, or non-functional. But this is the norm, right? It's like you race to the bottom in terms of cheapness. And if everybody's making the same poorly made product and charging basically the same thing for it, then there's no incentive to improve. There's no incentive to disrupt the norm.
Hence most of it was recycled into other better stuff. The Mark V and Mark IV power armor is the most commonly used by the traitor legions, as they haven't had reliable access to any newer power armors beyond the Horus Heresy. Towards the end of the Great Crusade, Mars was experimenting with a more tactical and lightweight power armor that was designed to be a specialization of Mark IV. The Salamanders and the Iron Warriors fucking hated this prototype armor for being too lightweight and not bulky enough. The Raven Guard were like, yo, let us give it a crack. As the Raven Guard are more inclined to being a bit lighter and agile, the armor complemented them greatly, and their field test against the Elder was a massive success. Ha! Eat a dick, Perturabo. Not you though, Vulcan, we love you.
The weird Primarch fandom, man. They really I mean, admittedly, half of them did betray the Emperor and try to kill everyone and corrupt the entire universe. But the rivalries and hatred really is pretty intense sometimes.
As such, the Mechanicus began mass-producing the Mark 6 power armor, named the Corvus power armor in honor of the Raven Guard who tested it. And you know, because it's got a beak. However, this armor wasn't released until deep into the Horus Heresy, where the Raven Guard primarily used it. However, it has since found its place amongst all the Loyalist legions and was a solid improvement over the super shitty Heresy armor. At the end of the Horus Heresy, when the traitors were about to launch the Siege of Terra, a final power armor was created, the Mark 7 Aquila power armor. Towards the start of the Great Crusade, the Emperor decreed that due to their nobility and sacrifice, the Emperor's children would be the only legion allowed to bear the Imperial Aquila. Well, yeah, that went fucking poorly, as the Emperor's children were the worst people to have using your logo and name by the time Slaanesh claimed them. Hence the Emperor was like, fuck it, anyone who isn't aligned with hell can wear the Aquila.
The Emperor's such an asshole, man. I mean, maybe that's where the Astartes get their total lack of empathy for any human being and their inability to, like, conceive of the feelings of others. It seems like the Emperor sometimes is just like... is just like fixated on these things. It's like, okay, let's say you made that decree, right? Is it going to be the case forever? Are certain legions going to be the B team forever, no matter what they do? And no matter how bad the Emperor's children fuck up, they will always be the team with the Aquila? If so, like, why? Why are you just creating eternal resentment, like, among generation after generation of your Astartes? Like, how could you be blind to that? And the answer is the Emperor is a brilliant mind and a fucking terrible father and probably human being. I mean, he literally is terrible at being a human because he's not. He's 8 foot tall, psychic, and can change his appearance at will for some reason. So he's literally not good at being a person.
Hence the name of this power armor. This is the armor that has been used by all the Loyalist Space Marines for the next 10,000 years after the Horus Heresy. This armor type is very solid and superior to most of the others. The traitors were shocked to discover that the Loyalists had all been equipped with this fresh, powerful design, when they had been expecting them to still be using the super shit Heresy power armor. Its most iconic feature is definitely the Vox Grill mouth, as well as the winged skull and the chest plate. It also has some cheeky backwards compatibility, meaning you could use the Corvus beaked helmet on the Aquila power armor. Yeah, really cool of the developers to enable backwards compatibility like that.
I mean, I'm more surprised that GW would allow such a thing, right? Why would you... I mean, maybe they sell the beaked armor, it's more expensive. I don't know. What does the pricing scheme look like for this? Because again, as a business decision, yeah, backwards compatibility seems ridiculous. Retire your stuff all the time. Force them to buy new products.
For some context as to how technologically stagnant the Imperium got after the Horus Heresy, in the couple hundred years before and during the Heresy, 7 distinct marks of power armor were created. In the 10,000 years since the Horus Heresy, only 1 mark of power armor was created, the Mark 8 Errant power armor, which is basically just Mark 7 with a neck plate. Like bruh, it wasn't even a good upgrade, as the neck plate was restrictive and the Mark was soon abandoned in favor of the Mark 7 power armor. Well, it was technologically stagnant, other than a brilliant, gigantic mechanical hentai monster called Belsarius Call. The stagnation was a result of Mars believing innovation and invention to be heresy. Fortunately, Call thought that was retarded.
Well, he's kind of right. He's kind of right.
Hence, over thousands of years, he created Primaris Marines, and to equip them, he created the Mark 10 power armor, which is straight up the best Space Marine power armor. I'm not trying to start a fight here. The Mark 10 was created using the best bits of all the other power armors, and then further improved with some cheeky tech heresy. The Mark 10 is very modular, and it refers to a range of different armors. There is the Tacticus variant, which is for the more rank and file Primaris, whilst Gravis armor is a bit heavier and meatier. Then there is Phobos variant, which is more of a lightweight tactical version. As we've established, the Mark 10 helmet is inspired by the Mark 4 Maximum helmet, which makes a lot of sense as the Mark 10 takes the best from previous designs. So that is all the Astartes power armor marks, but it is not all the power armor. A classic fan favorite, which holy fuck needs a new model update, is the Terminator armor. Here's a fun fact. Terminator armor was originally used by humanity during the Dark Age of technology for mining and farming on hostile worlds. You know, just to give context on how far we've fallen. The Imperium uses Terminator armor as its biggest and baddest non-dreadnought solution.
I still find that hilarious. I don't know if there's any, I'm trying to think if historically there's any cases of it. Oh, the biggest one is technicals, right? Technicals is the term for irregular forces that use pickup trucks and will crudely design tripod mounts and have a weapon mounted on the back of it. And they will use them as a moving gun platform, right? Not totally unlike U.S. Humvees with a turret, but unlike U.S. Humvees, these have no armor, right? They're just trucks. They're just pickup trucks. So I guess if you told, you know, an insurgent in Africa or certain parts of the Middle East that their technical pickup truck, I mean, they would know, right? Because they, in their countries too, right? Pickup trucks are used for agriculture and commercial work. But that's an example, right, of militarizing a civilian vehicle or civilian tool. Sort of in the same way they've sort of done with Terminator armor, right? Just sort of tweaked it a little bit and made it military.
And it shows. Terminators are walking tanks. However, some, like Logan, have turned their Terminator armor into running tanks, which is fucking terrifying. Having Terminator armor is a huge flex due to how rare and hard they are to make. A unique power armor type is the Aegis armor, worn exclusively by the Grey Knights, because you know, they think they're better than everyone.
Yeah, they do.
The defining trait of the Aegis armor is that it's super blessed. It's covered in holy water, runes, purity seals, and the anal blood of choir boys. Basically anything it takes to ward off demons. It also has a wrist-mounted bolter, cause why not? The best of the best space marines, such as chapter masters, will be given elite power armor called Artificer armor.
Okay, I love that the Artificer armor has completely fake abs.
Artificer armor is basically just power armor that has been heavily upgraded and modified until it's an overpowered relic. This basically allows unique space marines to have unique armor without breaking the law. Very tactical, GW, I like it. Chicks can have power armor too. The Sisters of Battle all use Adeptus Sororitas power armor in battle. You know, unless they're doing one of those weird sexualized repellent thingos they do. There is only one variation of Bolter Bitch battle armor, and it's a lightweight but still effective version of the Astartes one. It doesn't contain the life support systems that its counterpart does, and it's overall less protective.
It barely seems to count as power armor. Like, I'm sure it's powered, but you look at that, and I'm not really seeing a power armor type situation. I'm seeing a leather-studded corset and some shoulder pads.
But considering its users are unaugmented, it's still very handy to have. The cooler Sisters of Battle, aka the Sisters of Silence, use hectic as fuck Vitrain armor. This armor contains
that actually looks like power armor.
Void Mail, not sure what that is, but it sounds awesome, and can withstand heavy punishment. However, it's mostly designed for agility over durability. Now we have the best armor, the Golden Armor, the Custodes armor. Whilst the Sisters of Battle and Space Marine power armor is made of ceramite, Custodes armor is made of auroramite, which is better in every way. For context, the Emperor uses auroramite armor, and so did most of the Primarchs.
I mean, I just love that nothing is more peak Warhammer 40k than being like, ceramite, the best armor, except for the next level of armor, which is 10 times as good. It's super ceramite, ceramax.
Each Custodes...
It's like the bolters, right? You're like, the Sisters have a bolter, but the heavy bolter is the most powerful weapon in the Imperium. The bolter's the most powerful weapon in the Imperium, except for the heavy bolter, which is 10 times as powerful. Unless you mean the double heavy bolter, or the Terminator super mega belt-fed bolter, right? Like, it's like, everything is ratcheted up to 11, which I understand. This is the franchise, right? It's why people love it. It's because everybody is an 8-foot-tall super mega soldier who is terrified of the next tier up of 12-foot-tall super mega soldiers.
Custodians spends their life modifying their armor to suit their own needs, hence why it seems like every Custodes artwork has them wearing slightly different armor. And finally, we have the power armor for people who aren't religious female nutjobs or roided up super soldiers, the Ignatius power armor. This power armor is for Inquisitors who think they're going to get shot at. It's not as good as the Astartes power armor, but it's pretty bloody good. Unless you run out of power. If you run out of power as an unaugmented human wearing this, you're going to have a fucking shit one. Your body will be locked in place, and you're pretty much guaranteed to break some bones and pull some ligaments trying to get this armor off you before you die of dehydration. Always check your battery levels, people. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place.
Okay. Who's this? Oh, this is nobody interesting. Okay. It was funny. The last video, if you haven't seen it, features a YouTuber. I think it's Chapter Master Valric. It's really weird, and I'm sort of shocked he would do it because you want the rest of the Warhammer community to like you, and making parody porn of them isn't really that. That said, if you want to support my channel, the shirts are the place to do it. The Teespring, Patreon, right? And the best thing is you can order it and it won't be weird when your wife sees that you've bought a t-shirt. Because that's what normal people do. Normal. Well, I mean, it's Warhammer 40k, right? Nobody's normal. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out the second channel. Check out my Instagram. Check out the podcast on mixed martial arts and the UFC that I run with my brother. Links to all are in the description. And until next time, I will see you guys later.